U.S. Customs, Border and Protection, the acronym CBP. A couple of facts about CBP officers. These are the U.S. immigration officers that you will see at airports and ports of entry. They are not attorneys. They are not here to provide you with legal guidance. They are protecting the U.S. borders to safeguard all who are inside of the states. Their role is extremely important for American safety. They have vast and broad powers that was granted to them that is still binding under an executive order by the Trump administration. When you get to the airport, you are being watched. Sometimes at airports you'll see either mirrors and or screens, and there's a whole load of people behind those mirrors and they are looking at monitors. They can go close up. They can view people. Are you acting nervous? Are you looking fidgety? They are already alerted about you before you go to the officer who's going to view your passport. Therefore, your questions that they're going to ask you could be more strict. What are the types of things that CBP officers look for? When you're requesting to enter the United States on a temporary basis, whether that's under a visa waiver ESTA, a tourist visa, they're going to look at the amount of luggage you have. Lots of luggage triggers alarm bells to an officer because they believe, okay, you're telling us you wish to come in temporarily, but the luggage signifies you plan on staying longer. And it hits on this non-immigrant intent, and officers will either cancel and or revoke your visa and deny your admission to the United States. CBP officers are permitted to review all of your electronic devices, phones, iPads, computers. Their algorithms are super advanced, and within a matter of moments, they will be able to pull up lots of information. I've dealt with clients over the years where joking, has caused denials and huge problems, where certain words such as work and or green card have caused huge problems for people wishing to enter. Many cases where conversations via text have either been misconstrued by the officer, or after they further question you and you're nervous and you don't know how to answer questions because you've never been prepped or spoken to by an attorney, you may start saying things that are going to cause more problems for you, and I see this a lot. That's why I'm always advising people, if you wish to enter the United States, you should be speaking to an attorney. So this audio in some ways is going to assist you. Because CBP powers are so broad and expansive, they can effectively deny you for any reason. And more often than not, when they deny you, there's not going to be a scene. They want to move you along quickly. I speak to many people that say, well, the thing is, Caro, the officer just kind of smiled and was very helpful, and they told me go back to the consulate, and then I went back to the consulate, and then my visa was denied. And as I tell them, and I'm going to tell you the same, of course they're going to do that. They don't want a scene. They want to move you on quickly. They're assessing many people daily. If an officer denies your entry to the United States, no matter how friendly they are, no matter how much they may say to you, oh, it's only a minor thing, do not go back to a consulate and apply for a visa without speaking to me. There is a reason why they denied you. And 9 times out of 10, if they have denied you, you will be denied at the consulate. And you could be causing further issues. And at the very least, it will be a protracted period of time before you will be permitted into the United States. Another thing I see people doing is, If they have been denied entry into the United States, for example, maybe they had a visa, whether it was a student visa, a J1, it could even have been a tourist visa. It's been cancelled, it's been revoked. Do not reapply for your ESTA visa waiver online. Don't apply for it because it's going to be denied. And if it's not denied, because the algorithm on the ESTA triggers an automatic denial if you have been denied entry and or your visa has been cancelled or revoked. The problem I see with this scenario frequently is when you fill out the ESTA, the answers are now incorrect. And you may be approved online, your ESTA, and you now show up at the airport. Now an officer is going to deny your admission again, and this time there's going to be a fraud misrepresentation allegation, which is very serious and can lead to a permanent ban into coming into the United States. Permanent, it doesn't mean forever and ever, but it's going to be a long time. So the advice I am giving you clearly is, if you have been denied entry admission by a CBP officer and or they have revoked or cancelled your visa and or your visa waiver ESTA, don't apply for anything, just come and speak to me. And I can go through everything with you and we can strategize and figure out how do we get you in and do it correctly. You don't actually have a right into the United States, it's a privilege, and because of that, the legal burden is on you, not the airport CBP officer. You have to prove that you are credible and telling the truth. They don't have to do anything except ask you questions and ascertain, do they believe you're telling the truth? Remember, they're dealing with so much fraud, they've heard probably every story under the sun. The legal burden is on you. If you have answered a question falsely or incorrectly on, for example, your ESTA, then, as I have already stated, I do see this causing huge problems, because once misrepresentation and or fraud is triggered, it is very inflexible and hard to overcome. It doesn't mean it's impossible, it's just something you don't want. What is secondary inspection? Secondary inspection is where an officer wants to question you in more detail in a back room. Now, I hear frequently from people that I'm speaking to daily about this, they say, Caro, it felt like an interrogation. And I will tell them it was an interrogation. CBP is the last person to inspect you. They are protecting the US borders and US citizens, people inside the United States. And for that reason, they are going to strictly adjudicate everybody. They believe everybody is there to commit fraud. And as already stated, the legal burden is on you to prove you are credible and telling the truth. If you are questioned at a secondary inspection by a CBP officer, the following scenario is going to be played out. Either 1, 2, or even 3 officers will question you. They will be quick-fired questions. There will be lots of accusations. They will tell you that you said this on your phone, that you said this on your text, that they saw this on your computer. Why did you say this? We believe you were doing this. Lots of accusations. They will then get you to sign a sworn statement, an I-877 statement. So an I-877 statement is essentially the following. It will delineate every question an officer asks you and how you answer it. You will be asked to sign it, and they will then deny your entry. When you go to the consulate, for example, for your visa, the consular officer is going to have that I-877 sworn statement. Many times I hear people say, Caro, I went to the consulate and the guy was waving the statement in my face. So if you are brought into secondary inspection, you want to do a couple of things. You want to take a real deep breath and you want to think carefully before you answer. Do not lie. However, admissions will cause you problems, and I'm going to explain A common scenario that I hear over and over. Immigration is federal law. So whatever is going on in the state, whatever the state legalizes, federal law trumps state law. In other words, it doesn't matter what's legalized in the state. If it's not legalized under federal law, then it's deemed to be illegal. And many states in the United States have legalized marijuana laws. Federal law does not adhere to the use of marijuana, legal or otherwise. In other words, if a state permits the use of marijuana legally, federal law still deems it to be a crime. If a CBP officer asks you, have you ever used marijuana? And your response is, yes, officer, I used it in such a state because that state is legal for me to use it, you will be denied entry into the United States and your visa will be revoked. Officers will ask questions quickly because it's an interrogation. And the best way of slowing down an officer is ask them to repeat the question. Take your time. Don't just blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind. I know it's going to seem very intimidating. I hear clients tell me they were held for hours, they missed their flights, they weren't even given water. It is a horrendous experience because, as stated, they have a super important job. They are there to protect the US borders, and their job is to ascertain, are you a threat? So of course they're going to be heavy-handed with you. You have a choice that you can withdraw and refuse to sign the sworn statement. Now that's probably going to cause irritation on the officer, but I have dealt with clients where they refused to sign a sworn statement. Now what happens in those scenarios is you'll go up to the consulate. They won't be waiving the sworn statement because you didn't sign it, but it's annotated on your case. And the officer at the consulate will have evidence that something transpired at the airport and that you refused to sign the sworn statement. So it doesn't mean your problems go away, but from experience dealing with clients who did not sign the sworn statement, they are then not having to prove, well, hang on a second, I didn't really say that, the officer took it out of context, or I didn't say that. The officer misunderstood me. In other words, their words cannot be used against them if they sign the sworn statement. So you should consider that. If you sign a sworn statement, it is going to be fully used against you. If you choose not to sign that sworn statement, it's not that it's not going to be used against you, it is, because something has gone on. It's going to be relayed to the consulate. They're going to try and find out. I deal with cases where if the person has withdrawn, it will take us years to get them in. We have a fight on our hands and we may need waivers and we may need to send people to different consulates. However, the officer at the consulate is not able to say, well, you said on your sworn statement that you worked unlawfully, or that you took recreational marijuana at a party even though it was legal in the state. So my best advice to you is, if you have been denied entry into the United States and or your visa waiver ESTA has been cancelled or revoked, don't go to the consulate, don't reapply online for a visa. Come and speak to me. Let's go through everything. Let's figure out how we can get you an approval. It may take a bit of time, but at least you're doing it the correct way and you're not making matters worse by going up to a consulate and getting a denial. And what I'm often dealing with, and this makes my life more difficult and protracts the process, is you're denied entry, you go to the consulate thinking you're going to get a visa, the visa's denied, and maybe you even go back a second, if not a third time, until you realise, hold on a second, nobody's helping me here. If your ESTA, your visa waiver, that's the visa that permits you to come in for up to 90 days, if that has been revoked and or cancelled, the jurisdiction is under CBP and not the consulate. In other words, if you wish to get your ESTA visa waiver reinstated, because on occasion I do argue to get these reinstated, I make this determination after I consult with the person and I fully understand what's going on, then I will go back to CBP and request that the ESTA visa waiver is reinstated, because sometimes honest mistakes are made. If there is no case to have your visa waiver ESTA reinstated, then you have to go to the US Consulate. The Department of State is now the jurisdiction, not CBP. Whenever I prep clients for interviews for visas, I will always prep them on how to handle CBP officers. And there are also audios whereby I go through prepping when you are dealing with CBP, whether you are wishing to re-enter under an H-1B visa, an H-3 visa, a K-1 fiancé visa, a spouse visa, a green card. I do have audios which goes into detailed prep sessions whereby I will explain to you the documents you should have, the types of questions to expect, so you're more fully prepared. Another scenario I see played out often is, well, Caro, the thing is, I had never a problem going into the United States. I've gone in multiple times over the years. Now, all of a sudden, CBP has stopped me and stopped my admission, and now they're alleging all sorts of stuff and they've cancelled my visa. Why is this? And simply what's gone on is, when CBP is adjudicating you, they have your immigration history in front of them. They're busy, there's lots going on. They may just not have looked at your immigration history fully. Maybe there wasn't something triggering on the first page that they were looking at. Maybe your past DUI or your past arrest or any past issue was on page 3 of your immigration history, and now all of a sudden it's been pointed out because you have a more astute officer. It might be a more experienced officer, it might be a supervisor. It doesn't mean that it wasn't there, it just wasn't noted. And that's why I'm always saying to clients, past issues don't disappear for immigration. They don't. They always will rear their ugly head, as the idiom says, so it's up to you to really come and speak to me. If something has gone on in your past, come and speak to me. The conversations are confidential. And that way I can relay and explain to you, look, you need to do X, Y, and Z to overcome it. It's just not going to go away. And the fact that you have been permitted in once, twice, multiple times, you eventually one day will be stopped. I see this over and over and over.